Welcome to Building Families, Bridging Differences, a family law journey.
Hello, and welcome back to Building Families, Bridging Differences, a family law journey with Shelly Cooley. Shelly is a certified family law specialist and the founder of the Cooley Law Firm in Las Vegas. She focuses exclusively on family law, helping clients with divorce, custody, adoption, and assisted reproduction. She's also known for her compassionate, straightforward approach. I'm Lisa Mosbeard, host, and today we're talking about the difference between legal and physical custody in Nevada. Shelley will go over what each term means, how courts look at them, and why understanding the distinction matters for families making long-term decisions. Shelley, thanks again for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Lisa.
Shelley, custody terms can be really confusing for those of us that don't work with them on a day-to-day basis. How do you explain the difference between legal custody and physical custody in a way that makes sense to parents who are just starting this process?
Well, legal custody is the right to make decisions regarding a child's upbringing, such as education, healthcare, religion, and medical decisions. And physical custody is where and with whom the child resides. So we have those two types of custody, and then within each type of custody, we have joint or primary physical custody, or even sole physical custody. And then we also have joint legal custody or sole legal custody. So within each of the two types of custody, we have different designations as well.
And I know Nevada has a strong preference for joint legal custody. What does joint legal custody actually require from parents on a day-to-day basis?
Well, what that means is that parents are when parents share joint legal custody, both parents have the right to make decisions regarding the child's upbringing. And what that would look like is, um, as far as education goes, where the child goes to school, whether the child participates in tutoring or not. As far as healthcare, should a child be in therapy? Should a child have a surgery? Should a child take medication? And then as far as religion, what religion, if any, to raise a child?
Those are some big points that a parent has to deal with, and hopefully they can get on the same page. When it comes to physical custody, what kinds of arrangements do you see most often in Nevada, and how are those schedules chosen?
Given all of the different types of industry that we have in Nevada, specifically Las Vegas, there isn't a one size fits all physical custody schedule. When we have children that are school age, we often see a joint physical custody schedule that is a week on, week off schedule, meaning one parent has the children for a week, and then there's an exchange, say, on Friday, and then the other parent has custody of the children from Friday to the following Friday, and then parties alternate. Um, in this town, we have parents that work night shifts often, and that's not uncommon. So when we have that type of a schedule, we have to take into consideration um, who's going to be with the children during the night. And if that's the type of schedule that one of the parents has, then it's going to make sense for the other parent to have custody of the children on those nights. So there are a number of different schedules that children will have. It just depends on what's best for the kids and what is going to be most workable for the parents.
And then some parents, I'm sure, worry that labels like joint physical custody or primary physical custody will dramatically change their rights. How do these labels actually affect parenting time and responsibilities?
Well, when we're talking about upbringing and decisions, that is a legal custody issue. So, with the preference in Nevada that parents share joint legal custody, both parents are going to have a right to make decisions regarding their children. And that isn't going to change by the where the child lives on a day-to-day basis. As far as physical custody, you have to take into consideration what the schedule should look like practically speaking. Like I said, if you have one parent that works nights, obviously we cannot have children at home by themselves during the night. That would implicate child welfare becoming involved because that is potential abuse and or neglect. Um, So we want to make sure that when we are coming up with schedules, we are taking parents' work schedules and the practical part of life into consideration. And just because a parent may not have, what some parents would call 50-50 custody, which actually doesn't exist in Nevada, that would be joint physical custody, and that doesn't have to be 50-50. But we're looking at what schedule is going to be most workable for everyone. And your physical custody schedule does not implicate whether or not you are allowed to make decisions regarding legal custody.
And you've mentioned a number of times that legal custody is about the decision-making process. So if both parents have decision-making power in that relationship, what if they make different decisions when the child is with them? And then what types of decisions fall under this category? How do you work through these disagreements? That's bottom line my question.
Okay, so when we are talking about legal custody, those are the big issues: education, healthcare, religion, those types of issues. And the courts are going to allow parents who have custody of their children to make the day-to-day decisions regarding their children. So it's not necessary for parents to communicate regarding what should our children eat for lunch, right? Um, Not necessary. So day-to-day decisions, that's going to be each parent's realm while they have the children in their care. And when we have a disagreement as to a day-to-day decision, sometimes what the court does is, so long as it doesn't implicate the other parent's time, the court is going to say different families, different rules. While the child is with one parent, then this parent makes the decisions. And while the children are with the other parent, then that parent is going to make the decisions. And so long as there isn't a conflict between the timeshare with regard to what each parent is doing, then they're going to allow that to be the situation. Do I think that that is the best situation for children? Probably not. But if parents can't agree and I it's not going to harm the children, then the court's going to allow that to occur.
And I'm sure that there are situations where joint legal custody might not be appropriate. What kinds of circumstances lead to a court considering something different?
Well, when we have high conflict parents, and that's actually a designation that some parents get when they're going through the court system, they're high conflict, and you may have a parenting coordinator that is appointed. Um, you may have a situation where one parent is awarded sole legal custody of, let's say, healthcare decisions, or one parent is awarded sole legal custody for education decisions. Um, that is often something that the court may do with or a high conflict situation. You also have situations if you have a parent who has substance abuse issues, then that parent may not be awarded joint legal custody of the children. That may not be the best situation to co-parent, may not be the most healthy situation for children. So we would probably be looking at a situation where one parent has sole legal custody and the other parent only has supervised visitation. So the parent with sole legal custody may also have primary physical custody or sole physical custody, depending on the circumstances of the other parent's issues. And the other parent may only have supervised visitation if they have visitation at all.
And then, Shelley, for parents who have that difficulty communicating, how do the courts think about legal custody arrangements that still protect the child's needs without unnecessary conflict?
The court's position, and because of their caseloads, they do not want to micromanage cases. So when we're talking about legal custody decisions, the court will get involved if parents don't agree on where a child is to go to school or where a child, whether or not a child needs a medical procedure. Um, but oftentimes when you have that type of a high conflict situation, the courts are going to appoint a parenting coordinator because that individual will be able to better micromanage the legal custody and the day-to-day issues of a case. Um, One of the downsides of having a parenting coordinator appointed is that oftentimes you're going to have your attorney, and which you're paying for, and then you're also going to have the parenting coordinator, which you're also paying for. So, unfortunately, when we're looking at high conflict parents, the situation is just going to get more expensive because parents are unable to set aside their differences to do what's in the children's best interest.
So, Shelley, custody arrangements often evolve as children grow older. What tends to influence whether a change in legal or physical custody might be appropriate down the road?
Well, one issue that, um, well, legal custody is often not going to change unless we have a parent who has serious substance abuse or we have domestic violence issues, some of those issues. But those are often going to be present at the time of the custody decision, although substance abuse issues may happen post separation or post divorce. So legal custody often is going to remain as it was at the time of the decree being entered. Physical custody, so where children reside, may change given children growing older, children's lives. Let's say we have one child who is into club soccer and you've got practices 3 times a week, you have travel team, you have lots and lots and lots of um, parent time being spent taking children to and from. That situation may require a change to the visitation schedule based upon one parent is available and able to take the children and the other parent is not available to get the children to and from practices and events and etc. I- i- if it's important to the child to participate in that activity and the parents agree that it's important for the child to participate in that activity, then that very much may be something that would warrant a change in custody. You also have situations where, let's say, parents shortly after separation or divorce. They live nearby, so we have a child going to a zoned school. And then we have one parent moved, one parent lives in Las Vegas, the other parent moves to Henderson. What do we do? We have children that we have the option of the children going to, either parent's own school. So we have to have a decision regarding what school is going to be best. We look at what the timeshare is going to be. We would also look at, each parent's ability to get the children to and from school. And is subjecting children to, an hour drive each way, approximately, just to get to school each morning when they're in the other parent's care. Is that something that we want to do to children? I don't know. That's a parenting decision. That's something that should be discussed with parents, and that should be agreed upon. And if not, then that goes before the court. And we have case law that tells the court what factors the court needs to consider when making decisions regarding education. Changing the timeshare is very much dependent on the children and the family situation.
Things always adapt as we go through this process, is what I'm hearing. And we need to be flexible, flexible, flexible. We can't say that word enough when it comes to these decisions. Here's where I want to wrap this up today, Shelly. For parents preparing to create or update a custody agreement, what information is helpful to gather so that they can make informed decisions about both types of custody right away? Because there's a lasting impact that happens with this process.
Oh, absolutely. Once parents agree to a custodial designation for legal custody and physical custody, there is a presumption that legal and physical custody designations are in the best interest of the children. So, and to change those designations, there has to be factors that are met. There's case law that we have that specifies what you need to change a custodial designation. So, yes, it is very, very important to think about this and to think about, your children and what does life look like practically and how are things going to work, so that you can make sure that you have a custodial schedule and that your legal custody provisions are going to grow with your family.
Well said. Thank you so much for your insights today, Shelly.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. To our audience, thank you for listening to Building Families, Bridging Differences, a family law journey. To learn more or schedule a consultation with Shelly, visit CooleyLawLV.com. And remember to like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who might need it. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.